paleo.com, and today we've got a Q&A session that we're running live. We're going to dig into a number of different topics, from fats to meal ideas and templates to losing weight effectively, and a whole bunch of other things too. So I hope you enjoy what we have to share. And if you want to find any additional info or some of the links that I may mention today, go to goodfoodeating.com/QA1, that's /QA1, and you'll find any extra resources I mention there. I just have to state a disclaimer that the information we share today is for general information purposes only and is not meant to replace professional medical advice or treatment. So, let's dig into today's questions and topics. So Dana asks a really interesting question. She says, I know saturated fats, coconut oil, olive oil, etc. are good fats, but my question is, if one is trying to reduce body fat, is there a limit on how much fat to consume? The answer to that question is yes. You don't want to be over-consuming fat. Now, I'm not one to count grams, calories, weigh, or even measure, so I thought the best way to address this question was to talk about an ideal template and also a few common areas that people go wrong, because it's not just about the fat consumption. So what's the ideal template? It looks like this, a bit something like this. A portion of protein, such as meat, chicken or fish, several servings of veggies at every meal. Then you just want to round out your meals with healthy fats or cook with it, for example. So, for example, add avocado to your meals, or add a bit of olive oil over the top of your meals, or in a healthy homemade salad dressing. Or maybe you want to occasionally eat your homemade cacao chocolate made with coconut oil, or cook with your coconut oil, that type of thing. And what you want to do is use that template and eat like this 3 to 4 times a day. So if you're following a paleo diet, which it sounds like Dana might be, then you'd do that 3 or 4 times a day. And if you're gluten-free, you'd add a little bit of gluten-free whole grains, but not too much. And also you might add some beans and legumes and your dairy too, depending on what your dietary preference is. But generally speaking, that ideal template is made up of those healthy proteins, lots of veggies, and a little bit of healthy fats. Then you have a well-balanced diet, and that's really what it's all about. So you definitely don't want to go crazy on the fat component. Just eat it sensibly if you want faster weight loss results. And, you know, I thought that it would be also good to point out some common mistakes, because I think this is where people get a bit confused when it comes to the whole fat thing. And like I said, I'm assuming that Dana is following a paleo diet. And where most people go wrong with fat is when they are eating loads of almond meal treats or bakes and cakes loaded with nut flours, butter and coconut oil. Now, okay, we've got the fats in there, but one other ingredient that these bakes and cakes and these almond meal treats also happen to be full of is sugar. So don't just think about that fat, think about the sugar and ask yourself those questions, Dana or anybody else who's listening, that if you're thinking that fat might be the problem and you're not losing the weight, is it because you're including more of these almond meal treats? Is it because you're eating more bakes and cakes? And are you actually consuming not just more fat but more sugar as well? Because it may be natural sugar in the form of honey or molasses, but it's still sugar. And sugar is our predominant fat storage ingredient, macronutrient. So I guess the point is that if you're adding those additions into your diet every day, that can really slow down your results. Whereas sticking to a clean template, the one like I just mentioned, will definitely produce better outcomes. So just a few questions to ask yourself. Also, another common mistake for everyone is that they don't eat enough vegetables. And this may seem surprising even for people who follow a paleo diet, which really should be vegetable enriched, they really still aren't eating enough vegetables. So look at your vegetable intake and work on increasing your vegetable intake, and always keep that healthy template in mind, which is a portion of protein, several veggies, and just round off with a little fat or cook with it. I just say keep it simple rather than counting and all that stuff. So Dana, I hope that answers your question. I hope that makes sense. And for any of you that don't know your healthy sources of proteins, carbohydrates and fats, there are some detailed food guides on the Good Food Eating website. So I'll share some of those links if you want to go and have a look at those later and get more information about healthy sources of protein, carbohydrate and fat. So let's move on to the next question. Kate says, I struggle with finding quick, easy meal ideas. I know a lot of people struggle with this, and Kate, or anyone else who does, I really don't see that there's a problem with all of the amazing recipes and ideas you can find on the internet today. There's loads of inspiration for quick and easy meals, there really is. But I do understand if you haven't got a creative flair and you can't just walk into the kitchen and whip something together. Some people can do that, some people can't. So if you can't, then this process does require a bit of pre-planning, which sounds a bit strange because you want something quick and easy, but in order to make that happen, you need to do a bit of pre-planning. Because when you need a quick, easy meal, you're really not likely to spend time looking for an idea. And so it might seem easier under those circumstances just to go and buy takeout. So what I'd suggest you do is sit down when you have 10 or 20 minutes free, do a search online for fast, easy meal ideas or 10-minute meal ideas, and then during the week when you're not so pressed for time, or even on the weekend, try a few of those recipes out. And then what you can do is actually build up a list of go-to recipes and meal ideas that you keep on hand when you need them next. So one idea to do that is just to keep a handy list on your fridge so it's always there as a reminder. And just so you know, I've also got loads of really quick, easy meals on the Good Food Eating website. So I'll also provide you a link to that. I am definitely one to love my quick and easy meals, and so often my recipes are ones that you can make in 20 minutes or less. And really that's what it's about. It doesn't have to be difficult to be healthy and eat well. So I hope that gives you an idea, Kate. Just get on a bit of a search and start building that easy go-to list. Okay, next question. Lynn shares, at present I have about 25 pounds to drop. I have very sick adrenals and my guts are a mess. I am working to put together information to help me bring more nourishment to my body and healing to my overactive gut. Okay, so there's a few things going on here, and we could spend a whole hour just talking about adrenal and gut health, But we won't do that today because I'm sure Lynn is looking for some practical tips so she can put those into action, and that's what these Q&As are all about. So I just wanted to point out that I recently covered the topic of adrenal fatigue and its natural treatment on the Good Food Eating podcast, episodes 1 and 2, which are a new feature to Good Food Eating. So there is some really great information, Lynn and anyone else who has adrenal problems. There's really great information and tips you can learn from those podcasts, and I encourage you to go and have a listen to those. But I've also got some other tips just to share today. So although you might need to lose weight, your focus really should be on getting healthier, because as a result of better health, weight loss usually happens as a result. So one of the best things for your overactive gut and for digestive systems, a really simple thing you can do, one of the best daily tonics you can have is to start the day with a lemon and apple cider vinegar tonic. So first thing in the morning, boil the kettle, half fill a mug with hot water, add half a squeezed lemon and a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and then fill the mug with cold water until it's lukewarm, and then you drink that on an empty stomach. It's so simple, but I've seen this tonic stimulate gut function and appetite in people struggling with that problem. I've seen this tonic ease nausea and increase appetite in people struggling to eat breakfast. I've seen it help people's constipation and overall digestion, and I'm sure that it can help with your overactive gut too. So that's a really simple tip and a simple tonic that you can try implementing straight away and see how that goes for you. Another thing you want to do here is really focus on getting your diet cleaned up. So cut out all the dietary stressors, things like sugar, sugar substitutes and artificial sweeteners, refined white flours and carbohydrates, which mostly come in the form of processed foods and junk. You really want to cut all of that out because it messes with your hormones and your gut as well. You'll also need to look out for sauces and condiments because they're often full of sugar additives and preservatives. And basically, you can generally question most things that come in a packet. Definitely read every single label and make sure you're not adding additional stresses to your body's load. That's very important. And also when your adrenals are sick, it's best to avoid coffee, stimulants and alcohol too. So that leaves you focusing on eating fresh, natural, real foods. Loads of veggies, good quality proteins like beef, chicken, fish and eggs, a couple of pieces of fruit, nuts and seeds, healthy fats like avocado, olive oil and coconut oil, and pretty much follow that healthy template that I mentioned before when I was covering Dana's question above about saturated fat. If you can stick to a healthy template pretty much like that, that's definitely the way to go. Another thing is you'll want to trial possible allergens such as gluten-free grains, beans and legumes, and dairy products. Now, these aren't always a problem for everyone, but they can be. And since you mentioned gut problems, they are the things you might want to try eliminating and testing to see how you feel. But basically, the cleaner you can keep your diet, the better off you'll be. Of course, there's loads of other things you can do, but they're just a few things that you can do to get started, and I'm sure there's enough stuff for you to work on there, so I hope that helps. Jane says she struggles to stay motivated. How do you do it? I think we all find it difficult to stay motivated. We all do. I know that most of us will relate to this question, and I often say that we're like a fish in a fish bowl. By the time we get to the other side, we've actually forgotten what we're doing and don't remember what our goals are. I mean, have you ever felt like that? You start the day all motivated, thinking that this is going to be a great day, only to get to kind of mid-morning or lunch and your goals are already forgotten. And then by the time dinner comes around, you're totally disappointed in yourself again because you never seem to be getting out of that cycle. You wake up motivated and think today's the day, and then inevitably it's not. I think we've all been there, myself included. So how do we get past that and break free of the cycle? It's a good question. So I thought I'd tell you what's worked for me. And other people may have different suggestions because I think when it comes to motivation, it does come a little bit down to personal strategies and, trying what works for us too. But the number one thing that's really worked for me is that I really want to feel good about myself and feel comfortable in my own body. When I was overweight, I really didn't feel like that. I beat myself up all the time, and overall, I was just pretty depressed. Now that I'm back in a body that I love and feel good, I always want to feel like that. And I want to honour and appreciate and love myself by taking the best care of myself that I can. And I guess that's about putting yourself as the highest priority. So at times when I feel myself slipping, which we all do sometimes, I focus on what I used to feel like, and that brings me right back into focus straight away because I know I never ever want to feel like that again. So I guess what I'm saying is you have to find a reason that motivates you. And you might be in a position where you still have all the weight to lose, right? I mean, I was like that too, before I got back into my body that I loved. So what you do is you focus on how good you will feel. You focus on how good you want to feel. You focus on how much happier you will be, how much more comfortable you'll feel in a body that you love. And anytime that you waver, focus on the good things you want to feel and know that you don't, know in yourself that you don't want to continue feeling bad, hating yourself, beating yourself up. Motivation really does occur in our mind, so we need to have some thoughts where we can revert to when we feel a lack of motivation. Having a positive motivator like that is just about giving yourself, that bit of a slap on the back and a reminder to wake up. So I think we constantly need reminders around us all the time because, like I said, we're like a fish in a fish bowl. We tend to forget. So find your reason, find your question, find that positive motivator, and just keep trying to switch that little trigger on in your mind every time you're going to slip with motivation. Another thing is cutting out sugar really helps because sugar makes us crave more. It drives our behaviours. It messes with our hormones and it can destroy our health too. And I know that sugar is actually one of the most difficult things to give up, but it's also one of the best things that you can ever do for yourself. I know for me that my life is so much easier now that I pretty much have a completely sugar-free diet, including most fruit most of the time and most natural sugars. It's much easier to stay motivated and eat healthy when you don't have sugar because you really just don't tend to get all those cravings and hungers as much. But I know it is hard to overcome that at first, but once you get there, it's well worth it. I know for me, my work also keeps me motivated. And I'm lucky like that because I get to share nutrition, I write about nutrition, I talk about nutrition, and I work with clients focusing on nutrition. So my work is definitely a huge motivator for me to look after myself. But Of course, that might not be the case for you, so you can recruit friends who act as motivators, you can share weekly nutrition tips and goals with each other. You could join a fitness club or an online group. Just ask yourself the question, how can you find more support? Because there are lots of different ways. So look for them and try some of them and see what works. And in case any of you didn't know, I do have a private online community, and if you're interested in having more support, we do a lot of things. We have challenges, we have weekly webinars, we have a very active community forum. And I'm not going to talk about that now, but you can find out more about that at the goodfoodeating.com website. But finding motivation is going to be different for all of us, but you definitely need a why and a reason, and then use those cues to bring yourself back into focus. So I hope those little tips help. I'm sure if you ask different people, you would all have a slightly different answer. Justine asks, I'm pregnant, only first trimester and struggling to follow paleo as I'm so hungry and can't stomach anything except carbs. So I'd love help for pregnancy, diet and advice. Now I just want to say two things before digging into this question. Number one is I don't just work with people following a paleo diet. I work with people who follow all types of diets, but many of my clients do follow paleo. And I just wanted to clarify that because I've mentioned paleo a few times today, and I don't want to exclude anyone from the conversation or feeling like you're not in the right place. Number two, before I answer this question, is I'm really not an expert in pregnancy nutrition by any means, but I can share a few things, what I do know about pregnancy and pregnancy nutrition, which isn't all that much. So I'm not sure how far you are in your first trimester, Justine, but the first 60 days is when the embryo is forming all the organs and tissues, and then you switch into fetal stage, which is the most rapid growth period, going from around 5 grams a day at 15 weeks to 35 grams a day at 35 weeks. Pregnancy is just incredible, it really is. But the first trimester is really very important nutrition-wise, so you want to be eating a well-balanced diet that includes a really good variety of foods. I know you talk about being hungry and wanting carbs, and the fetus's preferred source of energy is glucose from carbohydrate. And supply of glucose to the fetus is actually dependent on placental blood flow and also your body's blood glucose concentration. So as a natural mechanism, when you're pregnant, your body actually switches to using fat as an energy source in order to spare that carbohydrate, that glucose, for the growth and development of the baby. I'm guessing, and I'm just guessing, that if you're craving carbs, you probably just need to eat more carbs. I mean, make sure you're having a decent meal in the morning, like a proper meal of chicken and veggies and sweet potato, because if you don't get enough energy in early in the day, this can also create more cravings too. So I'd say increase your veggie intake. Loads of people on the paleo diet do not eat enough veggies, and they do help provide bulk, they help you feel full, and they will provide lots of micronutrients too, which you definitely need loads of when you're pregnant. You definitely don't want to be calorie restricting or anything like that during pregnancy. And a few other things I'm aware of are the need for iron. So if you're eating good quality proteins like beef and lamb and chicken, then that will help with iron and providing for your higher iron needs during pregnancy. You'll also want to be including foods like salmon and sardines because the fetal nervous system is rich in omega-3 essential fatty acids, EPA, DHA, and arachidonic acid. So get those fatty fishes into your diet every day or every couple of days. Eat your foliage for folate, that's how I like to remember it, because your requirements increase for folate in pregnancy. So lots of green leafy veggies, and the green leafies like kale and spinach, they're also all rich in fat-soluble vitamins and various vitamins and minerals too. So definitely get those into you, and also include some seaweed or sea veggies for iodine. They're a natural rich source of iodine, and just try to generally eat a really good variety of foods. I think one of the most important things is to trust your intuition and what your body is telling you. I think that's one of the most important things you can do when you're pregnant. I know that's what I did. So if you're hungry, then eat more. And like I said, I really don't know that much about pregnancy nutrition. It's not my specialty, but I hope that those few tips and a bit of info help you on that level. And I'd also just like to recommend, if you still have trouble, just to see someone about it who can help you. So I wish you the best with your pregnancy, Justine, and I hope those few tips help you. We're just going to cover off one more question before signing off on today's meetup. We've got a question here from Laureen, and she asks, I have recently begun eating a paleo diet. I'm feeling very well and am pleased that my weight has remained the same over the past 4 weeks without counting calories, carbs, or doing any exercise. But now I'd like to start a real quest to lower my weight. I have started to exercise in conjunction with the November daily challenge, so hopefully that will help. For those of you who didn't know, I was running a daily November exercise challenge, so Laureen was involved with that, so that's great. Back to the question. What I would like to know though is perhaps a pathway for weight loss on my paleo diet. Do I simply decrease the amount of fat I am eating, or just fill up on more veggies? I know calories consumed does matter for weight management, but I'm trying not to count them. Any suggestions? Laureen has been a member of my online weight loss and health boot camp over the last 6 weeks, and she's been doing a fantastic job. She's really changed her diet a lot. As you can see, she started eating a paleo diet and has been getting great results. She has actually lost weight now at this point, which is fantastic to hear. But I thought this would be a great question to cover, because I'm sure that a lot of people actually find themselves in this situation also. Now, diet is definitely the key when it comes to weight loss. It's 80 to 90% of all of our results when it comes to this stuff is going to come from our nutrition, while only about 10 to 20% of that is going to come from exercise. So exercise is definitely important. It really helps with lots of different things, including just improved health. But it's only really 10 to 20% of results. So 80 to 90% focus on your nutrition. That's where you're going to get your results. As I pointed out earlier, most people following any type of diet, including paleo, just don't eat enough veggies. This is one of the biggest things that I see most frequently. And a vegetable-enriched diet is really important. At least I think so, and that's what I've seen work in so many people's diet when they change it over. Because the fibre fills you up, the fibre is really important for our health. It helps generate healthy gut bacteria. It slows down metabolism of other foods, so other macronutrients. It provides many of the micronutrients our body needs, so all of the vitamins and minerals. And vegetables and fibre also provides loads of other value to our body too. So aim at increasing your veggie intake if you're in this situation, and half of that effort will take care of itself there just by doing that. You don't need a lot of fat. Just a bit for cook some avocado with your meals, or make your salad dressings with olive oil, flaxseed oil, walnut oil, some of the healthy oils. Make those in dressings, or make a mayonnaise yourself if you're keen to do that. It's actually really easy. And just use that in cooking. Have some extra fat for your meal, but you don't need to go crazy with the fat. I am definitely not a calorie counter, and I don't encourage any. One thing works once you get in a swing with things and you kind of get in a bit of a routine with your diet is that you can slightly reduce portions throughout the day. So rather than counting calories, think about portions. Often we don't need as much food as we think, and we can actually slightly reduce our portion sizes across the day without really noticing its effect on our energy levels and without feeling hungry. And this is definitely one of the best areas you can experiment with and start seeing better results. So Laureen's on the right track here. You're right not to count calories. Keep focusing on the quality of the food you eat, and then just give it time. Time is definitely our best friend when it comes to weight loss, and we all have this idea in our mind that it happens really quickly. But as many of you may know and have experienced yourself, it usually doesn't happen that quickly. So in Laureen's case, she mentions it's been just 4 weeks, so it's early days. You know, still very early days, early days. It's just 4 weeks. So the body is still in transition. You know, it's still adapting even to a new eating style. And often we expect results way too fast when it comes to this stuff, and we give up before anything really starts to take momentum. So the most important thing is, if you are using any kind of new diet or any kind of lifestyle strategy, you have to maintain that consistency for a longer period. And then you'll see the things starting to happen. The things after 6 weeks and then 3 months, and everything you do, it builds momentum. It accumulates, and you build that momentum, and then suddenly the weight starts to shift a lot. So just keep focusing on food quality, increase your veggies, experiment with those portions, which is very effective if you can reduce those quite a bit just throughout the day, and then be consistent and give it time, and the results will definitely come as a consequence of that. So I hope that helps Laureen and anyone else who may be transitioning to a paleo diet or struggling to lose weight on a paleo diet, or really any other diet. In fact, you can apply many of those principles anyway. So that's about all we've got time for in today's Q&A session. I just wanted to thank those of you on the line. I can see that you're there, but you have been very quiet in chiming in on today's session. But I hope you found this Q&A session useful and have gathered some tips and tricks for yourself. So if you want your questions answered in a future session, or if you want to ask anything else that I've mentioned, please go to goodfoodeating.com/QA1, and I'll be putting the links that I've provided in this live session there. I'll be putting the replay for those of you who couldn't make it at that link. So it's goodfoodeating.com/QA1. If you have questions, again, you can submit those via the website. I do have a contact form on there. Please feel free to contact me anytime. And I do plan on trying to hold these Q&As every couple of weeks. So I just wanted the opportunity to get to know some of you better, and also to be able to provide some more nutrition tips, some practical stuff that you can put into practice, and hopefully our numbers here will grow. Hopefully a few of you won't be so shy to chime in. But for now, I'm going to sign off. I hope to see you again in a couple of weeks for our next Q&A. Have a fantastic day, week, or whatever, wherever you are. So it's Jetta here from goodfoodeating.com, wishing you the best in health. Take care now.